When bidding on pier reconstruction and rewiring, there are several factors to consider. Firstly, pier dimensions are crucial. This includes the length, width, height above the waterline, and the number and location of pilings or supports. Secondly, materials and specifications need careful attention. Consider the type of wood, such as pressure-treated pine or oak, the grade and thickness of lumber, the fasteners like stainless steel screws or bolts, and the electrical wiring specifications. Thirdly, labor costs are significant. Estimate the number of workers required and their labor rates, including expenses like insurance and benefits. Fourthly, permits and inspections are necessary. Research local building code requirements and permit fees and factor in the cost of inspections to ensure compliance. Fifthly, equipment is essential. Account for heavy machinery like a pile driver or crane, as well as tools and materials for framing, wiring, and finishing. Sixthly, access and logistics play a role. Consider the distance to the worksite and the accessibility for equipment and materials. Seventhly, overhead costs must be included. Calculate business expenses like insurance and general overhead and determine a suitable profit margin. The steps for bidding on pier reconstruction and rewiring are as follows. 1. Conduct a site visit and assessment. Inspect the existing pier to assess the damage. Take accurate measurements and gather all relevant information. 2. Estimate materials and labor. Calculate the quantity and type of materials required. Determine the estimated number of labor hours needed for the project. 3. Prepare a detailed cost breakdown. List all materials, labor, equipment, and overhead costs. Accurately calculate the total cost of the project. 4. Research market rates. Compare your costs to industry averages and local market rates to ensure your bid is competitive. 5. Determine a markup and profit margin. Add a markup to your cost to cover overhead and ensure profitability. Determine a reasonable profit margin based on the risk and complexity of the project. 6. Submit a comprehensive bid. Clearly outline the scope of work, the materials to be used, labor involved, and the pricing structure. Include any relevant references or past project history. Provide a reasonable time frame for project completion. Here are some additional tips for successful bidding. 1. Network with local contractors and suppliers to secure competitive pricing on materials and services. 2. Consider forming partnerships with other businesses to offer a more comprehensive service package. 3. Offer warranties and guarantees to demonstrate confidence in the quality of your work. 4. Be prepared to negotiate and adjust your bid based on evolving market conditions and specific client expectations. Consider the electrical wiring specifications required for the pier. This includes the voltage, amperage, and type of wiring needed to meet local codes and the client's requirements. Ensure you are familiar with the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and any local amendments that may apply to pier wiring. Properly grounding the electrical system is crucial for safety. Include the cost of grounding rods, conductors, and connectors in your bid. Determine the number and type of electrical outlets, lighting fixtures, and other electrical equipment that will be installed on the pier. Include the cost of these items in your materials estimate. Factor in the cost of conduit and other protective measures to protect the wiring from the elements and physical damage. Consider the need for underwater lighting or other specialized electrical equipment. Include the cost of these items and the specialized installation techniques required. If the pier will have boat lifts or other heavy electrical equipment, ensure the wiring and electrical service are adequate to handle the load. Include the cost of any necessary upgrades to the electrical service. Consider the potential for future expansion or upgrades to the electrical system. Design the system to be flexible and scalable to accommodate future needs. Obtain all necessary electrical permits and inspections to ensure the wiring complies with local codes and regulations. Include the cost of these permits and inspections in your bid. Pay close attention to the type of wood used for the pier construction, especially its resistance to marine borers and decay. Pressure-treated lumber is a common choice, but other options like oak offer superior durability. Select fasteners that are resistant to corrosion in a marine environment, such as stainless steel. Ensure the fasteners are of the appropriate size and strength for the application. Consider the use of composite decking materials, which are resistant to rot, decay, and insect infestation. These materials can reduce maintenance costs over the life of the pier. Evaluate the condition of the existing pilings or supports. If they are damaged or deteriorated, include the cost of repairing or replacing them in your bid. Consider the use of cathodic protection to prevent corrosion of metal components in the pier structure. Include the cost of this system in your bid. If the pier is located in an area with strong currents or wave action, consider the need for additional reinforcement or stabilization. Include the cost of these measures in your bid. Ensure the pier design complies with all applicable accessibility requirements, such as those outlined in the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. Include the cost of any necessary modifications to meet these requirements. Consider the environmental impact of the pier construction and take steps to minimize it. This may include using sustainable materials, minimizing disturbance to the surrounding habitat, and implementing erosion control measures. Include the cost of these measures in your bid. Obtain all necessary environmental permits and approvals before starting construction. Include the cost of these permits and approvals in your bid. Assess the condition of the existing pier structure to determine the extent of the damage. This will help you determine the scope of work and the materials needed. Consider the age of the existing pier and the expected lifespan of the new construction. This will help you select the appropriate materials and construction techniques. Evaluate the soil conditions at the pier site to ensure the pilings or supports are adequately supported. If the soil is unstable, you may need to use special foundation techniques. Consider the tidal range at the pier site and design the pier to accommodate the highest and lowest tides. This will prevent damage to the pier structure and ensure it remains accessible at all times. Evaluate the potential for ice damage at the pier site. If ice is a concern, you may need to use special construction techniques to protect the pier from ice damage. Consider the potential for boat traffic and design the pier to minimize the risk of collisions. This may include adding bumpers or other protective measures. Ensure the pier is properly lit to provide safe access at night. Include the cost of lighting fixtures and electrical wiring in your bid. Consider the need for handrails and other safety features to prevent falls. Include the cost of these features in your bid. Provide a detailed schedule for the project, including start and completion dates. This will help the client understand the timeline for the project. Offer a payment schedule that is fair to both you and the client. This may include a down payment, progress payments, and a final payment upon completion of the project. When preparing your bid, be sure to include all costs associated with the project, including materials, labor, equipment, permits, insurance, and overhead. Do not underestimate the cost of labor. Be sure to factor in all labor costs, including wages, benefits, and payroll taxes. Obtain competitive bids from subcontractors and suppliers to ensure you are getting the best prices. Be prepared to negotiate with the client on the price of the project. The client may have a budget in mind, and you may need to adjust your bid to meet their needs. Be sure to have a written contract with the client that clearly outlines the scope of work, the price, and the payment schedule. This will help protect you in case of a dispute. Maintain good communication with the client throughout the project. Keep them informed of progress and any changes to the schedule or budget. Obtain all necessary permits and inspections before starting work. Failure to do so could result in fines or delays. Follow all safety regulations to protect yourself and your workers. This is especially important when working near water. Dispose of all waste materials properly. Do not dump waste materials into the water or on the shoreline. Leave the work site clean and tidy. This will help ensure the client is satisfied with your work. Consider offering a warranty on your work. This will give the client peace of mind and help you build a good reputation. Be professional and courteous at all times. This will help you build a good relationship with the client and increase your chances of getting future work. To elaborate on pier dimensions, accurately measuring the length, width, and height of the pier above the waterline is crucial for determining material quantities and overall project scope. The number and location of pilings or supports directly impact the structural integrity and stability of the pier, influencing the type and amount of materials required for reinforcement or replacement. Detailing materials and specifications involves a thorough assessment of the wood type, considering factors like pressure-treated pine for cost-effectiveness or IPE for enhanced durability and resistance to marine borers. The grade and thickness of lumber should be specified based on load-bearing requirements and environmental conditions. The selection of fasteners, such as stainless steel screws or bolts, is critical to prevent corrosion in the marine environment, ensuring long-term structural integrity. Electrical wiring specifications must adhere to local building codes and safety standards, accounting for factors like voltage, amperage, and grounding requirements. Labor considerations require a detailed estimate of the number of workers needed, their skill levels, and the estimated hours required for each task, including demolition, construction, wiring, and finishing. Labor rates should include wages, insurance, benefits, and any applicable overtime or hazard pay. Accounting for permits and inspections involves researching local building codes, zoning regulations, and environmental restrictions to determine the necessary permits and associated fees. The cost of inspections by qualified professionals to ensure compliance with safety and structural standards should also be included. Equipment costs involve identifying and pricing the necessary heavy machinery, such as pile drivers, cranes, excavators, and specialized tools for framing, wiring, and finishing. Rental fees, transportation costs, and operating expenses for each piece of equipment should be factored into the bid. Assessing access and logistics requires evaluating the distance to the worksite, accessibility for equipment and materials, and any potential challenges related to transportation, storage, or site security. Consider the need for temporary access roads, barge services, or other specialized logistics solutions. Incorporating overhead costs involves allocating a portion of business expenses such as insurance, office rent, utilities, and administrative salaries to the project. A reasonable profit margin should be added to cover the contractor's risk, expertise, and desired return on investment. Conducting a site visit and assessment requires a thorough inspection of the existing pier, documenting any damage, deterioration, or structural deficiencies. Accurate measurements should be taken, and relevant information gathered regarding soil conditions, water depth, tidal range, and environmental factors. Estimating materials and labor involves calculating the quantity and type of materials needed for each phase of the project, including demolition, construction, wiring, and finishing. Labor hours should be estimated based on the complexity of the tasks, the skill levels of the workers, and any potential challenges related to weather, site conditions, or access. Preparing a cost breakdown involves creating a detailed spreadsheet or table listing all materials, labor, equipment, subcontractor fees, permit costs, insurance expenses, overhead allocation, and profit margin. Each item should be clearly defined and priced to ensure transparency and accuracy. Researching market rates involves obtaining quotes from multiple suppliers and subcontractors, comparing prices for similar projects in the area, and consulting industry resources to determine prevailing market rates for materials, labor, and equipment. Determining a markup and profit margin involves calculating a percentage or fixed amount to add to the total project cost to cover overhead expenses and generate a profit. The markup and profit margin should be based on the contractor's risk, expertise, market conditions, and desired return on investment. Submitting a bid involves preparing a formal proposal outlining the scope of work, materials, labor, equipment, pricing, payment schedule, and project timeline. The bid should be clear, concise, and professional, demonstrating the contractor's qualifications and commitment to delivering a high-quality project. Networking with local contractors and suppliers involves building relationships with other businesses in the construction industry to obtain competitive pricing, share resources, and collaborate on projects. Consider forming partnerships with other businesses to offer a comprehensive service package, such as combining pier construction with marine electrical services or landscaping. Offering warranties and guarantees demonstrates confidence in the quality of the work and provides clients with peace of mind. The warranty should clearly define the scope of coverage, the duration of the warranty, and the process for filing a claim. Being prepared to negotiate and adjust the bid based on market conditions and client expectations is essential for winning projects and maintaining profitability. Contractors should be flexible, adaptable, and willing to work with clients to find mutually agreeable solutions. In the specific context of hurricane damage, it is crucial to assess the structural integrity of the existing pier carefully. Hurricane-force winds and storm surge can cause significant damage to pilings, decking, and other components. A thorough inspection should identify any weakened or compromised areas that require repair or replacement. Pay special attention to the connection points between the pilings and the pier structure. These connections are often the weakest points and are susceptible to damage from high winds and waves. Inspect the electrical wiring and components for water damage or corrosion. Saltwater intrusion can cause significant damage to electrical systems, creating safety hazards and requiring extensive repair.